All right, I'm going to call to order the Town of Hudson Budget Committee meeting at 7 p.m. on May the 7th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so for attendance, I see all members of the Budget Committee present with the exception of Rich Weisgarber, who will be excused. All right, at 7 p.m. and 30 seconds, I'm going to open up the public input session. And seeing no members of public present, I'm going to close the public input at 7:01 p.m. Acting Clerk, Mr. Walsh, do we have minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have minutes for the meeting for April 2nd. The only thing I did was, let's see, I assumed that Mr. Kilgore, Ms. Boucher, and Mr. Cole were, oops, hang on a second.
I know I was
Mr. Kilgore,
here.
Ms. Rice, and Mr. Weary were abstaining. I don't think they actually mentioned that, but as a formality, I put them in since they were not present at the previous meeting. I assumed that they would have abstained from voting on approving the minutes.
Okay. Does any member of the committee have any comments on the meeting minutes as presented?
Well, yes, I do.
Okay, Vice Chair
It says members present, and I'm not listed. And I was here.
Rice? Yeah, you were certainly here.
I was certainly here.
Well, let's pile on. I was here also, but I'm not listed.
Well,
Attendance. You're talking about attendance for...
Yeah, where it says
Yes.
members present.
Present.
Yep, that's okay. Pen and ink change.
So add Mr. Cole and Vice Chair Rice.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the minutes be adopted as corrected.
Okay, we
I'll
have
second.
a motion by Mr. Jasper, seconded by Vice Chair Rice. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes have been adopted as corrected. Mr. Walsh, I want to thank you for your service as clerk to this committee. You've been a very valuable asset to us. I know that you have expressed a desire to step aside as you've done this job quite well for the past year. And at this point in time, I would like to entertain a motion for someone to be clerk for the current year. I guess I will make the motion to nominate Mr. Wary to be clerk for the next.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Wary, if now that a motion has been made to nominate you for clerk, if elected, would you be willing to serve in this?
yes, I'd be willing to try and serve, following the footsteps of our esteemed clerk over there, but I will try.
Thank you, Mr. Wary. Mr. Walsh, would you be willing to assist as assistant clerk to Mr. Wary if he is elected to
Yes,
that
I would,
position?
Mr. Chairman, and I would be more than happy to take the minutes for tonight's meeting, and then I can work with Mr. Weary to make the transition for the next meeting, if that's acceptable to Mr. Weary.
Well, that's very much appreciated. Now that a motion has been made and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Bob. You do a hell of a job.
The line, if I may comment, the line that Groucho Marx always said, I would never join a club that would accept me as a member. Somehow it feels like it applies. But,
Good advice.
Very
It
good.
is.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. So that brings us to reports from the Board of Selectmen liaison and School Board liaison. But before I do that, I want to give a very warm welcome to our new Board of Selectmen liaison. And I'm going to try and make sure I get this right the first time. Mr. Vergeropoulos.
You got it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Nice
Well,
job.
welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
I guess I will give you the floor since you are at the top of the list here.
I don't have much to report at this time. Actually, to be honest, I just came off of vacation, so I'm a little behind on my reading.
Did you go somewhere nice or?
I did. I went to Bermuda.
Oh,
Ooh,
very
nice.
good.
Nice.
It was very nice. Now, we're pretty busy. We've got a lot of different actions we're working on at the board. Some of them, I'm not sure if we're going to talk about them right now, so I'll bring back something better at the next meeting. But right now, we're just focusing on some budget and stuff like that, and the renovations. Those are our big items, in the new playground. So that's where we're at the moment. I'll bring more next time.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Kilgore.
All right, so I'm going to report from the school board that the school board and school district continue to review possible options to meet the $800K budget reduction. We anticipate that that item will be included in the May 19th agenda, and further information to be provided to the budget committee following that meeting.
Okay. Mr. Walsh.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for the school district.
Mhm.
Has there been any progress on recruiting for the business administrator's position?
Yes, there has been. I can share that the business administrator has been hired, and they will begin July 1st.
Oh,
Good.
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 If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly, Mr. Cole.
Was that an internal personnel or external?
I believe that was external.
Thank you.
Any other questions from a member of the committee for the school board liaison? Seeing none, thank you for your report, Mr. Kilgore.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to old business. If you recall at the previous meeting of the budget committee, we decided to try a new method of sending formal requests on behalf of the budget committee. And that process was going to be that all official requests from the budget committee would be forwarded first to me or Vice Chair Rice, and we'd make a determination as to whether that was a relevant question to ask on behalf of the budget committee, and we'd forward that out. There were a number of requests that came in since our last budget committee. Some of those were forwarded. Some of those I received some objections from members of this committee. And I handled those very simply. If I didn't hear any objections from members of the committee and I thought that they were relevant, I passed them forward. So most of them did go forward. But there were three in particular that I did receive at least one objection from a member of this committee that indicated that they had, or they were taking exception to those items being passed forward as a request from the budget committee. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring those items forward to the budget committee for a vote to determine whether this is a request that this committee feels should be coming from this body or not. Does anyone have any questions about what has transpired on that. All right, seeing none. Mr. Cole?
If I might, Mr. Chair, it appears to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it appears you've already had a de facto meeting with one or more members and have decided not to put something on based on that? Is that-
No,
No.
that's not what I said.
Okay, what'd you say?
I said that there were members of this committee that sent me an email
Yeah.
objecting to that request going forward.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I am going to bring that forward now to the whole committee to have a discussion about that, because I think that's the only appropriate way to move forward. Does anyone have any objection to doing it that way?
No.
All right, seeing none. So I will go with the first topic that an objection was set forward, and that was for schools' job descriptions. What I would say is that this is a topic that has come up in the past. It wasn't really discussed a lot in the last budget committee session. I guess what I would offer up to the committee as a whole, I think the question that the individual approached me with was, is the job description of an individual for a position really something that's the purview of this committee? I would open it up to any member of the committee to comment on that at this time. Yes, Mr. Vergaropoulos.
But, not for not, but isn't job descriptions in any place you go, public info?
Yeah, I would say usually they would be.
What would the purpose be for the budget committee actually requesting it?
That's a good question. I guess that would be more in line with the individual who made the request to answer that question. Mr. Jasper, did you have a follow-on?
It is public information, but I don't think it's anything under the purview of the Budget Committee. Any individual in town has the right to make a right-to-know request for a job description, but there's nothing under our purview that we could do anything about whatever a budget, whatever a job is. We're a committee that deals with numbers, and I think, just getting a little far afield of our job if we start getting into that level of detail, what is the end game, I guess? What would we do with that information were we to request it?
Okay. Any other member of the committee have a comment? Mr. Cole?
Yeah, thank you, sir. With all due respect to my colleague, Mr. Jasper, we have to wrap our arms around one basic tenet, the only basic tenet that applies to this committee. If something has to do with a taxpayer dollar going in or going out, it's within the purview of this committee. And unless these positions are doing it pro bono, those are taxpayer dollars paying their salary.
Mr. Weary?
Yeah, if I may, just to follow on Mr. Jasper's comments, I think perhaps the details of the job description are not as relevant to the Budget Committee. I think what I would be interested in from a budgetary perspective is, are they full-time or part-time? How many students, what sort of service and purview are they operating at? How many classes, what's their capacity of operation, so that we can better understand, if you will, I hate to put it this way, but the efficiency of those positions. And I think because we don't want 10 teachers teaching one student each in 10 classes. I mean, that's inefficient. And that becomes our responsibility from a budgetary standpoint, I believe. So those sorts of metrics are things that I would be very interested in, but I would not be particularly interested in the job descriptions. And as Mr. Jasper said, they're publicly available through the right to know. So I think that's a better avenue if that individual wishes to pursue that.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Boucher?
Well, I look at it that our job on the Budget Committee is to review budgets, to prepare future budgets, but to not control expenditures. That's not our job.
Vice Chair Rice?
I just don't think it's our job to micromanage the school district or the town. They know what positions they need. It's not for us to say, like, so we took away $800,000 out of the budget. We saw that many vacancies that were not filled throughout the year. I think that was responsible on our part. But we don't get to pick and choose what subjects they teach, what teacher teaches what subject. So I don't understand what the purpose of having their job descriptions is for us.
Mr. I'm going to mess it up again. Veropoulos.
Yeah, it kind of hinges off both of you guys, what you're saying. I think the word you're both talking about that would correlate in both instances would be utilization versus their salary. So I think that's the only purview that you would really need, but a job description isn't necessarily going to give you that. Job description is a general overview of the job, it's not the full P&E for the individual. So you could you're not going to get what you want from that for a comparison from a cost point.
Mr. Jasper.
And what we have to remember is that at the end of the day, the voters give the school board and the Board of Selectmen a gross appropriation. It is limited only by things that are not within the purpose found in the budget, which, as I think we've found, they can stretch pretty much anything to be a purpose. Probably buying an airplane would not be within the purpose, but, you know, there aren't many things that they couldn't justify. And so it doesn't matter what we think about individual positions. If they said, well, we're not going to have any teachers, we're going to have all administrators, there's nothing we can do about that. If they live within, that's the extreme. And in my legislative career, I always took things to the extreme in terms of thinking what would happen with this bill, what could happen. And the reality is that we don't have the ability to control any individual positions in the town or the school district.
Exactly.
All right. Does any other member of the committee have anything else to add to this discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote. And the vote is to determine whether this body wants to forward this request on as an official request from the Budget Committee. So if you vote yay, that means you want it to go forward. If you vote nay, you don't want this to go forward as a formal request. So, all in favor?
This is a point of order. Should that motion be seconded? It's just, I have a second for the
Well,
motion.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
All right.
That's where you're
Just dotting the i's and crossing the t's.
All right, the motion's been made.
got the
and-
right man for the job.
Well, now he's
Bob,
retiring.
You picked the right man, Bob.
Thank you.
All in favor?
I'll do it again.
All opposed? The nays have it.
I thought you said there were only 3 people opposed to me. Thank you.
If you join us.
The school job description request will not be forwarded as an official request from the Budget Committee. Now, I'm going to foot stomp the fact that this does not preclude any member of this committee from requesting that information as a private citizen. So it's just that we're not sending that request from the Budget Committee. All right, the second item that I received an objection to was the SAU 81 employee overview.
If I might, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, just to put things in historic perspective, when I got on the Budget Committee, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I made a similar request, and the school gave us all of the documentation, okay? So I'm not quite sure why it became an issue this time around. And I'm sorry, the next item we were going to talk about was the overview. That's also something that the school provided me in the past when I was on the committee, and I made a request. So this is not new territory.
Okay. Vice Chair Rice.
So I don't think we're saying it's new territory. I think we're saying, is it actually relevant to the performance we are supposed to do as the Budget Committee?
And point of
Mr.
clarification, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch before Mr. Cole interjected what the information.
So this is SAU 81 employee overview. This was a request that was made.
I'm not sure I really understand what that means.
Okay, so there is a document that was requested from the SAU, which is basically an overview of their entire employees. Is that correct, Mr. Cole?
Yes, you all have a copy of my email to the chairman in here.
It's in your packet.
It's in the packet. A question for the vice chair. How many employees does the school district have? Do you have the slightest idea?
So is that what you're asking
No,
for,
no,
though?
that's one of the numbers I'll
I'm
get.
asking you what
Hold
you're
on.
asking for.
Please
because-
work through the chair.
With all due
and ask
respect, ma'am, if
questions.
you read my email, you knew what I was asking for.
Well, you sent so many, I have forgotten that email. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry if this is becoming a burden for you, okay? But it's in here exactly what I'm looking for, which was provided several years ago. The question is, basic premise is, how many employees do we have? And how are they broken up? And the short answer is, we have over 700 employees, 2/3 of which are not teachers, okay? Now, that is somewhat relative or relevant to what this budget committee should be looking at, or any. And I think you've been reading the newspapers lately, a lot of communities are starting to hone in on this.
I want to take a step back here for a second. I'm bringing this up because potentially one member of this body may have had an objection to this. It may not mean that the committee at large thinks that this is not something we should ask. And that's why I'm having this conversation with the whole committee, so that we can all weigh in and determine whether these are subject matters that we're interested in getting more information on. Yes, Mr. Vergaropoulos.
I would say these two requests that we've been talking about, they're very similar in context to what Mr. Cole said, where 2/3 of the staff are not teachers. Though their titles might be that, but you could ask any parent here in this town, or any town for that matter, if someone is a teacher to their child and they don't have the teacher title. All right, so like paras and all them, like people don't consider them teachers. Well, they are. So like there's a lot of other things behind the scenes where they might have the title of teacher, but they're very valuable to the students. So I think if this becomes a big thing, then something should be put forward to form a small subcommittee if they want to investigate that and ask those kinds of questions to get that data to make sense.
Okay, thank you for that. Vice Chair Rice.
Thank you. So I think that, yes, we should be getting the information monthly on vacancies, right? And I think that we've asked for that before. So, but I'm, the overview of, like, determining how many paras a school needs is just not what we do, right? We don't determine, well, no, you don't need this many teachers, you don't need this many paras, you don't need this many administrators. I mean, they're the ones that are running the schools. We look to them for that information to say, what do you need? And then we give them what we can, right? Because we are limited. We can't tax people out of their homes, right? But then the school has to make the decision, and the town has to make the decision of which positions they keep and which go. And that's on them. We don't make those decisions.
Mr. Brownrigg.
It's not that I don't disagree with you, Kim, but when the voters come in for deliberations, they're not the ones that can say what teachers can stay, what teachers can't.
Right.
But it's our job, as we are accountants, to let the school knows that you're over budget and you can't hire 50 extra employees when we can't afford it. So we
Right.
have to give them some type of accountability of they're hiring too many people. Granted, you are right that they need to hire people as they see fit, but if they're going over their own budget, it's our job to, fight back and say, no, that's too much, because when we go to deliberations, the town people don't know what's actually going on, so they're having difficulties in seeing how the budget's really working. Mr. Jasper.
Mr. Jasper?
So, well, first of all, I think, let's clear the air. Neither the town nor the school district, in my memory, has ever exceeded their budgets. That would be something that could put people in jail. So
Right.
that's never happened. Within the budget that the school or the town appropriates, the school district can, and the town can hire whomever they want for whatever positions they want, and ultimately, we can judge that in the next budget. What I think is relevant about this request is during the budget process. And I think what would be helpful to know, and I don't want a monthly report because I'm not going to be able to put that all together. I think having an overview during the budget of, how many positions, and I don't even really care which ones they were because that's tough to, but I think to have that, a spreadsheet and saying there were this many full-time positions vacant, we could get into the details if we want, but I'm not sure what that does for us in May, and that's why, I'm not in favor of doing this. I'm absolutely in favor of having it as part of our budget deliberations.
Mr. Walsh and then Vice Chair.
Thank you,
Right,
Chairman. This is something that's come up before. We are trying to balance the appropriateness, I guess, of having inadequate staff in face of a declining population of students. Having said that, it's been mentioned previously that, for example, at Hudson Memorial School, they reduced staffing there because of reduction in student population. We've asked questions about what's been going on at the high school in particular, given the decline there. The ability for the district to provide that information in terms of how they characterize their different employees is very simple. They have to provide that to the state, and the state provides that to the federal government as well. It's the National Center for Education Statistics. So there's a person within the Department of Education that gets that information from the SAU office. So to me, it's a very simple process to come up with the listing, the quantitative list of the number of employees by different categories. And we can use that, again, as a map as we're going through the budget process to understand how that maps to the needs of the district. So I don't see this as being out of line, but I agree with Mr. Jasper in saying it would help us to understand when we're looking at the budget, how the staff is deployed to meet the needs of the district.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Rice.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we, during the last budget process, didn't we ask the school to give us, like, at end of year, how many vacancies they had and how many they had at the beginning? And we haven't gotten that yet.
Yes, we did.
We did?
Yes, we did.
I don't recall.
We're not at
Yep.
the end of the school year yet,
I-
anyhow.
yeah.
No,
we're-
from last year, they gave us those numbers last year.
Okay, because I
cool.
don't remember that.
During the budget cycle, I do
Okay.
remember that.
Yeah.
So I want to piggyback on something that Mr. Walsh brought up here. I do agree that this data is probably readily available, and now that they have a new BA that's hired at the SAU, once they get their feet on the ground and get their bearing, they should be able to provide us this information. I do think that the number of employees at the SAU is kind of germane to what our duties are here. So I would tend to give a little bit more difference to say that this is probably a relevant request for information from the Budget Committee. Mr. Brownrigg, did you have a?
Yeah, just to, add a little bit to this. When we got our package last year for the fiscal year coming, That information was on there, how many teachers and staff they had. I don't have the USB drive with me, and it was such a big drive, and I didn't download it to my computer. But those numbers were given to us, how many teachers they had, what they had for vacancies and stuff like that, and they even told us what seats were being filled. So Dr. Moulis did a very good job, in my opinion, on that. The other thing is that Mr. Jasper brought up, not wanting a monthly report. The school board does put out expenditures of what they're going to spend their money on. I attended the school board meeting on Monday and spoke. I was very fortunate to speak a little bit longer than 3 minutes, which I was appreciative of that. And if you ask the school board to send you their agenda, they will. And on here, it tells you how much money that they were going to spend, roughly a little over $500,000. But a lot of that stuff they couldn't spend because they had other stuff they had to do. So that list was revised for later on. So I do know that each month they do put something out in this fashion of what they're spending money on, how the money's being spent in some way. So they do their part. And I'm not trying to, actually, I think I'm sticking up for them. But they do a good job on that part. So I just wanted to relay that information that I do attend the meetings. I do speak there. One of the things that I spoke about is their future down the road for, I know it's going to come up, HO and Library Street. I gave my opinion on it, and I think it's very important that they think about that and happen in the next 5 to 7 years, and trying to save money at the same time. So I enjoy going to those meetings. I ask people to join me. They're very receptive of when you get there, coming up and talking to you and stuff. So join me the next time on the 19th of May.
Okay. Very good. Any other discussion points? Mr. Kilgore.
I do want to mention that the fall 2024 school district provided student enrollment and employee information as requested by this committee for 2025. Sorry, my notes are a little bit off here. Also, additional details for 2024 can be found in the annual report that was published in March.
Okay, so that being said, Mr. Kilgore, do you have any problems with providing that data to this committee for the next meeting?
Clarify what data, the overview of the SAU employees?
Well, you just basically said that they formulated a report for the end of last year, as well as relevant information in their annual report that has a lot of this information. I'm trying to not recreate the wheel. I'm trying
Understood. I can seek that information for you.
All right, I appreciate that. Mr. Jasper.
I'm just curious as to how we see during the middle of the process we could use this information. As I said, I think that having a report showing each month during that, but for me to get this information, or any of us get this information on a monthly basis, I want to, again, what are we going to do? We've got the financials here for the town, and I can ask questions about, okay, certain things, but this is, employee count is very, very fluid. I mean, in my department, it's constantly fluid. I mean, I'll get to being filled, and I'll be filled for about a month, sometimes 2 weeks, then somebody else leaves, I advertise again, and so I'm not sure, unless we could see a 12-month, that we constantly have X number of positions filled, and then we can look and say, all right, here are 25 positions that have never been filled during the year. Then we can have a point of conversation about the value of those positions if they're never filled. But to see a report and see 100 positions that aren't filled without knowing when the last time they were filled,
Right.
what are we going to do with that? I just don't understand how we can use that snapshot. I understand how we can use 12 months of a snapshot, not one at a time, how we could have a reasonable discussion. And even if we had this hour-long discussion at each monthly meeting, what would we do with that? When we're in the budget process, having 12 months' worth of information, we could then make a motion to take money out of the budget or add money to the budget.
Mr. Cole, did
Yes,
you
sir.
want to respond to that in any way, shape, or form?
Well, my under the surface reason for that particular one was hopefully people here who don't have an appreciation, and I would think it's the majority, how many people don't actually teach, okay, in our school district? I think you'd be shocked. I think the taxpayers out, they think everybody's a teacher, because that's all they ever hear. The teachers are held up. Little Johnny and little Mary are held up in front of them. The reality is, we're like every other school district in the country. We are super fat with admin and support people, okay? That's the reality. And most people don't know it, or if they know it, they're pretending it doesn't exist for any number of reasons. So that was one of my intentions. If I want, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen rep, and we have the town administrator here, I'm not putting you on the spot. If I was fire chief, okay, or the police chief, nobody'd be that crazy, I know, but, and I wanted to create a new position, 2 or 3 firefighters, who approves that?
All right, I'd recognize Mr. Sorensen to respond to
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Cole's
Chair.
question.
Roy Sorensen, Town Administrator. That process would come through the fire chief. They would develop
No,
that.
no, who approves?
Board of
It goes
Selectmen.
through the process,
Board of Selectmen, and then ultimately the town.
the town, okay. If I might, my question now for Mr. Kilgore. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that the superintendent thought that there was a need for, and I'm just making this up, a deputy strategies for success teacher, okay? Want to create that position. Who approves that position if it does within the school district?
I would assume, Mr. Cole, that it would be, well, I would assume that it would ultimately it would be, I would say it would be the school board. Would
So
it-
the
would
voters
not?
don't approve positions for the school district?
Yes, they do.
They do?
We just did it in the last, 2
Which one?
elections ago. Sorry. I'm out of turn.
All right, Mr. Browning, did you want
Yeah, 2 elections ago, we approved for an additional of PAs, paras. It was it was a big number. And if I, correct me, Mr. Jasper, if they have $1 left in the account, they can generate that count to a full position if it falls under the full position with benefits, if there's $1. Last year, no? Correct?
Oh, I'm going to respond after you're done.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
so
just-
my understanding is if there's
Get in the
$1
queue.
left in, they don't have to go through all of the hoops for that position. I'm done.
to, Mr. Jasper?
So.
He's gonna add to that.
No, well, so here's, in that, years and years ago, back before I had any gray hair, or not much gray hair, there were 2 petition warrant articles, one in the school district, one in the town, that said no new positions could be added except by vote of town or school district meeting. Those were advisory only. The town still really honors that. The school district, because of the hundreds and hundreds of positions, really that has gone to the wayside. We did have those discussions here, but we
Yeah.
didn't have those, there were not warrant articles to create full-time para positions or part-time para positions. All the positions now are approved by the school board in the budget, and then they come through us, and we either leave the money for those positions in or not, but at the end of the day, the school district can do what they want. Technically, the town can as well, but the town has, opted not to do that. Now, we had a debate a while ago about the assistant town administrator and then another position, yeah, I guess it was assistant town. administrator, which had been created,
Given day.
then defunded, and the money went someplace else. But the reality is that position had been approved.
Members of the committee, could we please
My
give
apologies.
the floor to Mr. Jasper? He's been recognized.
So, I mean, the reality is, in both cases, the legal authority to create positions rests solely with the governing bodies, within the limits of appropriation. That's the legal situation.
Any other comments from any member of the committee? Mr. Wary?
Yeah, I think that the point is well taken, that during the budget process, it would be helpful to have a look back on almost a month-by-month basis about how many positions were vacant, which positions were filled, which positions have remained open for an extended period of time. And I think originally we had proposed a reduction of almost 1.5 million, the numbers won't be exact, and that became half of that because we really didn't understand the vacancies sufficiently. I think, so I agree that we need a month-by-month analysis, but I don't think we need it till the budget time. So I agree with the request in principle, but implementation-wise, I think we need it at the time of the budget request so that we can more precisely see how many positions have been open for a long time, what's the aging process on those openings, and then that can help inform the budget committee as to what to do with those numbers. So I think the idea is right. I think the implementation would be better suited to what Mr. Jasper has raised.
Okay. Mr. Cole?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect, Bob, are you suggesting that today, the 7th of May, we are not involved in the budget process?
Mr. Cole, I would, I'll give some clarity on that. As a budget committee, yes, we're always engaged in the budget process, but I think what Mr. Wary is referring to is once we actually start the analysis of the presented budgets to this committee, which will not happen until late summer, early fall.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, same words, okay? Just phrased a different way. We're in the budget process from day one until it's over. Simple as that.
Okay, Mr. Jasper?
I respectfully disagree. I think we are in the process of reviewing the budget that was approved, and that's why I think this report, and we don't have one really for the, unless it was emailed, and I don't print stuff off. And I know there's this financial summary, and that doesn't tell me anything. I looked at the minutes, and what we requested of both
Right.
governing bodies was this report. I can't wait to get down and ask questions about this, because it will help us understand where we are, why we are, what we might be looking at next year. The other stuff, and that's traditionally, going back to 1980, what we did on a monthly meeting was look at these reports. So we're not in a budgeting process. We are in the process of having a budget essentially consumed. That's all it is. Right now, the budget is being consumed. We're not making any changes to it. We can't do anything
I
other
feel
than
like I've been
review.
transported to Concord.
Mr. Walsh?
There are worse places to be, sir.
I don't know about that.
So it's been said.
Washington, D.C. Right now, maybe the Pentagon.
All right, Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think just to bring it back to this concept of employee overview, when you look at the budget that we receive, it's a point-in-time number, just like the number of students is a point-in-time number, the 1st of October, whatever the actual date is. that's the same kind of information that the district provides in terms of what their staffing looks like across the board. So that's the baseline that we're looking at, the assumptions that we're seeing in the budget. So that, to me, is a relevant number for us to match to the request for funding. So to look at this on a monthly basis, to me, kind of is irrelevant. What we're looking at now is looking at the performance of the assumptions that they made and that we had approved and recommended, or recommended and approved, and the vote is adopted. So we're looking at the performance of that budget and what's happened. You know, there were some assumptions at the beginning of the year. Yes, we assume we're going to have full staffing, whether it's the town or the school district. And if that happens, that's fine. If it doesn't happen, how does that impact the budget and the decisions that the Board of Selectmen and the school board have to make around making sure that the services are provided that are required? So again, it's just a point-in-time thing, but now we're looking at that performance year-to-date and what those assumptions are and how they're making progress. And that's what we should be looking at now in terms of preparing for the assembling of the next budget cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Ms. Boucher?
Would it be helpful possibly to look forward to October of this year and have a snapshot of each month for the year prior from October to October? It gives a chance for the school to be settled after the new year, and it also points to a time after the school was settled last year.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So if I might, I think what I'm hearing as a consensus from the group here is that this is a relevant request. It's just that we want to see it maybe as we get presented the budget from the SAU. And with this caveat that Ms. Boucher just added is that that information might include a monthly breakout of what has happened or transpired leading up to that. Is that a fair
Yes.
assessment? So would this group be amenable to changing this request to meet those parameters? Mr. Cole, would you be okay with that request going forward that way?
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I've lost the thread of the conversation. I wasn't suggesting that I wanted to see these numbers every month. I simply take a snapshot one day, a school day, and tell me how many employees we have, how many are in this category, how many are in that. I wanted this committee, and if anybody's watching, to appreciate, okay, the scope of the school district from standpoint of personnel. How many para-educator positions are there? Anybody know on the books? Anybody? 134. You've got 134 para-educator positions. And as I said earlier, 2/3 of the employees of this town and the school district are not teachers. And if there's one person watching tonight, I'll bet he or she didn't know that. If they know it now, I've accomplished something. Thank you.
Mr. I've lost it now. Vergaropoulos.
Zen, you're on.
Yes.
Mr. Vergaropoulos.
Thank you. I hear what you're saying, but you want to talk about being budget conscious, right? So I appreciate what you said, Mr. Cole, but the fact is that if you use paraeducators as your example, it costs much less to have a paraeducator without a teacher's license and just certifications than it does to employ the same amount of paraeducated teachers.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Paras are expensive.
No, they're not.
With all due respect, paras aren't teachers. If they were teachers,
I know, because
they'd
my
be
wife's
hired
a
as
para.
teachers and paid as teachers. They're a separate category. That's a discussion for another time.
Oh, wait, but now you're breaking it apart.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you, you got 134 slots.
But I'm saying, you're saying, per the general conversation, is wipe those out because they're not teachers. They're not real educators.
I think you might want to do an assessment of, does the school district with a declining student enrollment need 134 paraeducator positions? That's a fair question.
And I might add that we will address that question as we formulate the budget in this, in the fall timeframe. So I'm going to try and get us back on track here, because I think we were close to getting an approved request to come from this body here. I would entertain somebody making a motion at this time as to what this request would look like. Mr. Jasper.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I would move that for October 1st, we have a numeric overview of all district positions, which does include the SAU, ooh,
Sorry.
filled or vacant as of the date of the overview, and that they be categorized by teaching positions or what their job description would indicate that what role they fill. That wasn't very elegant, I apologize. Hopefully get the idea. It's pretty much as Mr. Cole had put in his memo here, but that we have that for each month so that we can see how the flow is going.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion that's been seconded by Vice Chair Rice. Mr. Brownrigg, do you have a?
We asked in the question, are they union or non-union? Because there's a difference.
No.
Yes, there's a difference, because you have union contracts and you have non-union contracts.
They're employees of the school district, correct?
But there's a difference in
I
contract.
know but they're employees. That's the category.
So I'm assuming, Mr. Jasper, that your request would be all-encompassing, that it would include all employees
All employees
regardless
of
of
the
which union
district.
they're a member of?
What they're categorized, if they're administrative, teaching, para-educators, special ed, we see them. I mean, we get this information in the budget, but we don't get it holistically. We would have to really pull it out and put a report together. What this motion is intended to do is to do that. So we see a total at the beginning of the year, because this would include how many authorized positions were there, authorized by the school board for each month. So we'd know did they add positions? Did they do away with positions during the course of the year? Because sometimes that happens too. But so we can look at that 12-month flow.
Okay. Mr. Brownrigg.
That still goes back to my question, because now you all are categorizing in some form. Then that category has to include, are they union or non-union? And I think that makes a difference.
Excuse
It
me.
does.
Ms. Boucher.
There are several unions involved in the SAU.
Okay, and I understand that. But they should be, if we're going to categorize, then they should be categorized if they're union or non-union and what union they're in.
So I've got a question for our school board liaison, Mr. Kilgore, and you may not know this answer yet, so I'll give you some opportunity to go back and gather it if you don't. It's my understanding that most of the employees of the SAU, unless they're administrative, are covered under some union. Is that not correct?
I would have to double check that, but it is my understanding, not only as a school board member, but as an educator in public school prior to 2018, that yes, employees to some extent do fall under some form of union. But I will go back and gather that data and get an answer for you.
So I'll pivot to you, Mr. Brownrigg, based on your question. If that information just designated who was covered under one of the respective unions versus not, would that satisfy
Not all
your?
of the teachers and staff are under a union. PAs are not under a union, and administrators are not under a union. Not
No,
all
I
administrators.
acknowledge the administrators weren't.
Right.
So-
So, I mean, now you're categorizing who is who.
Excuse me,
Ms. Boucher?
the SAU doesn't run under a closed shop, so you can have non-union members receiving the same steps as union members, whether you are part of the union or not.
But they're not getting, sorry,
Go ahead, Mr. Brownrigg.
but they're not getting the union benefits.
Well, in the
That's
school,
for your teachers who get the union benefits. You have non-teachers in there. Paras don't get a union benefits. They're part-time.
excuse me, they do have their own union.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mr. Brownrigg, I think we could probably defer this conversation, but it's my understanding that the paraprofessionals are under contract that's negotiated under collective bargaining with the
No.
union.
That is true.
No.
My wife is a paraeducator.
Hudson?
Yes.
So, you know what, just for clarification, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm the expert in this, Mr. Kilgore, could you take an action for clarification on this item? If you can't bring that at the next meeting, then please have somebody from the SAU that can clarify that.
I can gather the action as to what the unions are. Is that the request?
No, I mean, this is a very specific question, and that is, Mr. Brownrigg is saying or inferring that non-administrative personnel for the SAU are not covered under one union or another. So, Mr. Jasper.
And for the purpose of my motion, it's totally irrelevant.
Yeah, that's correct.
Totally irrelevant. If Mr. Brownrigg wants to have that as a separate question, fine, but it is totally irrelevant to
I
this motion.
agree. I agree. And we probably shouldn't have discussed it while we've got a motion on the table. That's my fault, but we'll move forward now. Any other discussion on the motion on the
Business administrators.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries, and we'll send that request forward
Thank you.
in anticipation of the formulation of the next budget for the SAU.
I'd like to make a request.
Mr. Brownrigg?
I'd like to make a request. If I get this information to him, I want the opportunity to change my vote. Why can't I? Well, I'm just making a request. He can deny or not
You
deny
have to
it.
be on the prevailing side to reconsider.
Okay,
You'd
now
have
I'll be on,
Well,
get it.
Oh, that's,
I don't think your
We'll let
vote's
you do
gonna change the outcome.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
So next.
All right,
So, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cole.
I'm probably the only one here that got lost. That motion's going to generate what, when?
So we're gonna send a request, and we'll do that in short
Well, I
order.
understand, but what's going to be the deliverable on that?
Well, the
particular item?
deliverable is gonna be most of what you were intending to get anyway. It's just gonna come a little bit later.
And
So
in,
it's going to be a one-day snapshot?
No, no.
no,
Monthly.
It's going to be?
monthly.
Month to
It's
month.
going to show us
Monthly.
Show us the whole year.
November through October.
It'll show us
Or
everything.
October 1st through September 30th. What you're asking for here, so that we
you'll-
can,
You'll get the whole year's worth
Well,
of
no, I'm
data.
excited about this, trust me, I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
Okay,
I'm batting 500 so far tonight.
that's good. All right. All right, so the last item that I received an objection to was information from the DEI subcommittee. I guess I would open this up to any input from the committee at this time. Mr. Kilgore?
So I can share that there is no longer a school board or school district subcommittee on DEI, and the last time that the committee met was May of 2024.
Okay.
That was easy.
Takes care of that.
Oh, so is that a dead horse? Do we even need to
well,
discuss
he
that,
just got,
Mr.
he
Gold?
just got what he asked for.
I just wanted to see if we were funding it at all. If
All right.
we don't have it, we're not funding it.
All right, there you
Move
go.
on.
Now you're batting 75.
He's batting more than that because some of them nobody objected to. So.
I don't get cocky, I'm only 2 out of 3 so far.
I will add, though, Mr. Cole, in chess, that's actually a very good score.
Excellent. All right. All right. So that's it for the items that there were questions on, and I guess I would entertain any other discussions from any of the other items that are listed under old business here.
If I may,
Mr. Kilgore.
let me go in and let me just double check. Actually, in regards to the STEM exaction, I do have some notes on that. I will share that the school board were not involved in any discussions as it related to the distribution facility or the STEM exaction line item included. The same information as below was provided to the Budget Committee, both in writing and at meetings from the previous school board liaison, 2022 through as recently as August 2024. In August 2024, then Business Administrator Jen Burke and School Board Chair Dion attended the Budget Committee meeting and provided the same information, which I'm going to read as well, which is, the school district has not received any funds from the Logistics Center. Additional guidance, requirements, information have yet to be provided, and it is the school district's understanding that the funds are allocated for STEM instructional materials, resources, etc., as it relates to the CTE Center at Alvern. How the district receives those funds has yet to be determined, and in what installments these funds will be provided. It is the school district's understanding that the funds and/or initial funds will not be provided until a certificate of occupancy is obtained for the facility.
All right. Mr. Cole?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have not heard exactly what you said. So we still don't know how the figure of 3 million, how that was arrived at for that particular item? It just popped out of the air? So somebody had, there's no paper trail at the school with regard to how that amount of money was determined, which is what Jen Burks told us last year.
Mr. Vergaropoulos.
Wasn't that pre-Target when it was still Amazon? Wasn't that when that was determined? So,
Well, the issue is the school, according to Jen Burks, had absolutely no input, collaboration, negotiation, et cetera, with any developer that would arrive at that dollar figure.
yeah, no, I get that.
Okay.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, so now I'm sorry, Mr. Jasper.
I'm just going to say, quite bluntly, that was the number that the planning board decided to extort from the developer.
And
That's-
that's probably the answer.
That is the answer.
Okay, so now.
People aren't going to like it, that's the answer.
So now the next
I
question.
thought that term was dead.
No, because extraction is a legal term that this is not. So you know, I've read it to you. This is not extraction. Was extortion. It is outside of the law, but you have two parties who were both willing to engage in this activity outside of the law, and there's nobody to complain.
Sounds like a
Brings into
sordid
question
tale.
the quality of our legal service. But let's move on with this. So we don't know how we got to the figure, but I think Mr. Jasper's probably correct. So how are we accepting this figure? How is the school accepting this money? Whether it's 2 million, 3 million, I don't really care. What's the authorization? And I'm sure Mr. Jasper will tell us exactly how it works. But how are they authorized to take this money?
That is a question that I can run up it's honestly a question that I don't know.
They've been running that up for the last year, and I still haven't heard an answer.
Well, on the town side, the auditors chose to ignore the fact that there was no appropriation and allowed it to happen, which the DRA told me, well, I'm sure that the auditors will catch it. Maybe on the school side, the auditors will actually look at it from a legal standpoint and say, you can't accept this money without an appropriation. And then somehow, as a gift, and that's the only way, legal way for any of this to happen, would be for a gift to be accepted by the taxpayers, in this case, on the school side. That's,
But we have more than relative certainty that none of that has happened thus far. Between
No,
the
it-
developer, the planning board, or the school district. Zero.
It has
Nada
not.
has happened. So I think we're setting ourselves up town-wise for a big problem in the future.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Vergaropoulos.
I would find it acceptable for us to put forth a request for that information from Target.
they're not going to respond to us.
I have no idea who asked.
You know, that might be something the Board of Selectmen might want to take up.
No,
Well, it would be
I'm
the school
just
board.
throwing it out there. I'm like,
Yeah.
Or the planning board.
I think Mr. Malley should be brought into the conversation, is what I think. He was the chairman, he still is the chairman of the planning board.
like, in all seriousness, we do need to figure that out. because we already have an audit that didn't perform very well. So, people are hawking our audits now. And so maybe we should find that out so we don't fall into that trap.
Vice Chair Rice.
So I guess my question is, then who do we command to come before us
We have no
to get that?
authority.
Because we don't have the authority,
we-
right, to tell
we-
Target to come here.
This
You could,
really,
you could have the chairman of the planning board tell us how they arrived at that figure. That's a start point.
Oh,
We could, but we don't have any
There should be a
authority
point of
to
contact.
make him do
We
it.
can
That's
invite
the
him.
thing. Of course we can invite him. I'm not saying we can't invite him. I'm saying the question is, will he show up?
I don't think he would. Mr. Jasper.
I think that's really a question for the school board to be asking of the planning board. Because again, we don't have any authority to do anything with it. The school board does. That number is hanging out over there, and the school board is being told they're going to be receiving this money. The school board ought to be asking, how was this number arrived at? How do you expect for us to legally accept the money? I mean, obviously, you can just say, oh, well, hey, it's free money, so nobody really cares, which is what has happened on the town side. And I think through all these discussions we've had over the last couple of years, that's pretty much been admitted to.
But the town lawyer said that it was legal.
Yes.
So,
Lawyers
Well,
never lie.
That's not exact, he couched it in very legalese terms. Didn't say that it was authorized, but again, he essentially said what I said. There are two willing parties, so there's no foul.
this sounds like a sordid tale.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's one that this committee is going to take up.
We can't, but
So-
I get very animated about it.
All right, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, just to read from the actual notice of approval of the agreement back in January 17, 2023. The STEM program, the intent to provide annual funding for a period of 10 years for STEM-related activities and/or training at the Parma CTE school. Payable $230,000 annual payments for 10 years, beginning at the time of issuance of certificate of occupancy for the main building and recurring on that anniversary. Payments to be made to SAU 81. In lieu of the foregoing scheduled annual payments, payments may be made according to such terms as may be mutually agreed upon, the school board and the applicant, including, by way of example, a single lump sum payment at any agreed amount present value. So that states it, but yes, it's two parties agreed to $7.75 million worth of exactions. Those parties are long gone. We have new parties involved now. We have Clayco and Target, who were not part of the original negotiation between Hillwood and Amazon and the board of the planning board. So
They assume those agreements, so.
there it is in black and white.
Mr. Jasper.
And so I just, on a less emotional, the reason that the legislature, in my opinion, set out certain things that could be asked for, road improvements, things that you could absolutely say were needed as a result of the development, was to avoid this type of thing, where someone, a developer, would come in and want something, and in return for giving them that which they are otherwise legally entitled to, a planning board could say, well, yeah, but we would really like to have these things for our town. And you could start extorting in every developer coming in for things that you want that were not related to your development, which is very clear in the case of what's going on in the school district. Those are nice things, but there's no additional need for having a warehouse to have STEM or any of these other things and many of the things that you're having. So that the legislature laid that out, that here are the things the planning board is allowed to ask for to prevent this type of thing. In this case, it was because of the grand scope of this development, it was just cheaper for the developer to agree to those demands and move on. It doesn't make it right, doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it could have been done. We would like to make this donation to the town of Hudson, and the voters would have decided, do we want another ladder truck that we're going to have to maintain and replace? Do we want these things that we're going to build these programs up for and then have to take responsibility for it? That's what happens. That's why there is the ability for both the town and school district to accept gifts. And the developer is more than able to do that. That is not what happened here. That's what's upsetting here. And I know that 99% of the people will say, hey, well, that's fine, because we got all this money. And
Until
For-
the fire truck breaks down and we have to pay to repair it, until the boat ramp starts to crumble and we have to pay to repair it.
Wait a minute, I
Therein
didn't
lies
hear
the
about a boat
problem.
ramp yet.
Yes,
Where's the
there was
boat
a boat ramp.
All right.
exactly.
All right. Any other old business to come before?
Just a quick question.
Mr. Cole.
Mr. Sorensen, refresh my memory. The platform truck, that's being procured under a warrant article that was approved, or appropriation, or how? I lost the thread.
You're talking about through the funding from the
Yeah,
project?
through these extractions or extortions, as Mr. Jasper.
I don't quote me, I think it's like 2.1, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
2.1 million.
But was that on a warrant? Was
No.
that amount appropriated?
No,
So we just expending that money, that gift money, without any appropriation behind it? Okay? That's where we're heading. We're heading down a really, I think, what is it, Department of Revenue? They're gonna stop smiling one of these days.
Yeah. And just on that, if I may, and in the law for the town and for the state, every time any amount of gift is taken in, no matter how small it is, that has to have a public hearing or go through some formal acceptance. And in the case of, small amounts, the Board of Selectmen can do that. But in certain amounts, it has to go before the voters. And that is really the problem. It's the process.
All right. Any other old business to come before the committee today? Mr. Walsh.
Just a couple of quick things regarding some of the requests for information. Master plan update. Again, there's funding from the Target Logistics Center of $200,000 for master planning. So I don't know if any of those funds have been received, and if they've been used to conduct any kind of studies or updates for the master plan. That's my first one. The second one is actually the request that I had made through the chair to the school board, to the school district, I'm sorry, which we did not get before the end of the meeting last meeting. It's in here somewhere. I had some questions about the audit. And the encumbrances that were rolled over into the current year, as well as the one-time special IRS credit of $1,637,092 and so forth. That's I know that is still outstanding. We have not got that information, so
Mr. Kilgore, are you
Take that.
familiar with the request that Mr. Walsh is referring to?
I am not, Mr. Chairman. I can look into the encumbrances and IRS credit that Mr. Walsh has requested.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, that request I know was forwarded on to both the chair of the school board and to the school administration, at least to the superintendent. So I will follow up on that and see where that is. And I will CC you, Mr. Kilgore, on that request when it comes up.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Anything else?
So, I'm sorry, which were we on, master plan update? Or did I miss something?
No,
again, it was
any other old business, Mr. Cole? Did you?
Well, I'm just looking at the list I have on my agenda here. Next one that I haven't crossed off is master plan update,
Okay.
okay? And we received, I believe, some information with a cover memo from the town administrator. Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. And let me just double check something. We have a quarterly report, if I understand correctly, in this packet, correct?
For the master plan update, or are you
Oh,
talking?
no, I'm sorry. I get myself confused here. Bear with me. Too much paper. Okay, we have a different memo from you, Mr. Sorensen, on the master plan update. And this lays out, I'm just trying to get a feel. Okay, in here, we have the vouchers from the NRPC, I believe.
Yeah, so if I may, I actually, Mr. Cole's citing what I did here. I combined the master plan update and the other item that you have on
The
there.
interim planner.
NRPC.
Yeah, we got a mix. We got, the vouchers that we have in here are the ones for the interim planner.
That's for the NRPC item, correct?
NRPC, okay.
Yep.
We don't have any vouchers in here for any support that NRPC provided the town on the master plan update over the last 6 years. That's what I was looking for.
All right, so I didn't understand that request, and I'll
My
have to
apologies.
provide that. I'll have to provide that at
No,
a
no, I understand.
meeting. I thought you meant just acting in the capacity as the planner.
You know, we have those. Those are the invoices that we have in front of us.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
That, yes.
So getting back to the master plan, let me see if we need that. Just a general question. I was looking at, well, this comes under the town planner issue. We'll talk about that in a second. So that's enough on the master plan, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I still got the floor?
You still do, Mr. Cole.
Okay. Let's move to the NRPC invoices for the interim planner, which we have in that packet that Mr. Sorensen provided. So my question is, and this is a rhetorical question, I don't expect an answer, how can somebody bill the town for 15 minutes and do something in town hall? It just doesn't make any sense that they were in town hall for 15 minutes. And if you go through these invoices, you come across 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there. It's just a little unusual. I'll leave it at that. Now, let's give that, okay, I think I'm good to go there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, the only other item is the MRI mentoring information, generic term. We have a contract. We received a quarterly report,
One quarterly report, correct.
okay? I'm not trying to be indelicate, but where are the other three? The year is over.
Well, if you read in the memo, which I included, the original intent of the project was 10 to 12 months. You are correct.
Understand?
That is no longer the case. It's going to extend past that point. I did reach out to them. They owe us a report coming back after speaking with the chief as well. We'd certainly expect for them to deliver on those reports. There's still balance left on the PO for the contract as well this time.
Yeah, I mean, they submitted and the town paid, as far as I can tell, a year's worth of invoices. Okay? You don't normally pay for a deliverable until you actually get a deliverable. And they still, by my count, owe us 3 quarterly deliverable reports. Not one,
Yep.
3.
And I think what I'm saying is I agree with you on that.
Oh, I'm sure you did. I just wanted to make sure we were all talking about the same situation here. So we've got that coming up. And you're saying now it's going to be going on beyond the year?
Yeah, the project itself and/or the contract is going to extend, as I put in the memo. So because of the time when they kicked off the actual start,
Yeah.
the first quarterly report that was received, and then subsequently to that, the fire chief himself is seeking higher education. So there's a combination of things happening there. That has extended the original project schedule out. I don't want to put a time on it, 16, 18 months perhaps, total.
Okay, has the cap on the expenditure been changed? the cap in the original contract was $29,850, of which
Yep.
they've invoiced for $23,000.
Correct, yep, so there's not this, it's split over 2 fiscal years, and I believe the PO that's currently still open has that balance of a little more than $6,000 on it.
So your excuse me, your expectation is they will not exceed what's still remaining in that 29,000 cap?
That would be my expectation.
I mean,
yeah.
if you're not,
They
you're
would
gonna have to
They would
modify
have
the
to
contract.
provide, they would have to provide why they might exceed that.
And that would generate a contract modification.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other old business to come before the committee tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to new business, and the first item I'd like to,
Mr. Chair, if I may,
yes, Mr.
as
Sorensen.
much as I love being here tonight, and I truly do, is it okay if I depart at this point?
I
As you
do.
get into new business?
Make sure you call us and let us know what the score is. just so things-
If there's any additional information you need for your next meeting, work through the chair to please reach out, and we'll get that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. Mr.
I do have a
Jasper.
question before he departs, because we do have, and I assume it's under new business, the review
Oh.
of the budget appropriations. And if the Selectman rep is well-versed in this, I mean, there are some notable things on revenues and expenditures that I think need to be explained, and you don't.
That's fine.
So, Mr. Jasper, do you have a lengthy list of questions about
Well,
the
it's not,
expenditures?
I don't think it's lengthy, but the first thing that, on expenditures that jumped out at me was under planning, where I think at this point we're page 3, the land use, it's actually the total of land use, we've expended 178% of budget at this point. I think that's worthy of an explanation.
Yes, it is very, yes. So that line item is actually, that money's encumbered. That's for the Melende Road Bridge project. 80% of that will be reimbursed, and that's already
Okay.
passed through a warrant article. So you'll see a balance and transfer as we get closer to the end of the year on that line item.
Looks like you should have brought that PowerPoint.
Yeah, we talked about it, we talked about it at the last BOS meeting as well.
Couple other things, but not on the expenditures, nothing jumped out at me, but it looks like, let me see, I should have made, the planning board fees are way down, and I guess that may just be indicative of state of the economy, state of building, but, you know, we budgeted 120,000, and it looks like we're only at just under $13,000 year-to-date with, since this is, what, March, April, May, and June, so we're going to be way down there. Just interesting to note there. But on the other hand, building permits are nearly double what we were anticipating.
Sounds a little counterintuitive.
It certainly does. And just quickly, bear with me. Police details are certainly way off, and I don't know if there's a lag in billing. And
Typically, there is, yes.
we're not. Again, we're way up on meals and rooms, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape on block grants. I assume those are probably paid quarterly, as I
Yep.
recall. Police detail, as I think I just said was way down. Ambulance billings was the other thing that jumped out at me, and again, that, I don't know how we log those in, but I can't imagine that our ambulance calls are down, but we're showing 86,000 of revenue against a $400,000 budget.
Part of that would be too, as you say, we are lagging behind, as I think as this committee knows, we're in kind of transition in the finance department area as well. New finance director will be starting May 19th. We do have some billing that will be going out subsequent that has fallen slightly behind as well.
What I'm having, I guess that's just the sewer is at 47%, so that's probably, that's all gonna come in.
It's significant encumbrance in there as well, though.
You're saying it's backed up.
Who says there's no humor in the budget committee?
Really? What am I missing? I guess while there's a total for the, those fees, I'm not seeing a total for the general fund, revenues. Maybe it is
Maybe
on
on
a
subsequent
different
pages.
page.
Page 4.
Not really finding that total that I was looking for, or what the general fund, or other funds, whatever you would like to call them.
So pages 14, I mean, so what we do sometimes is we'll break these out by category, and you see that on pages 14 and 15. We do have a larger report if you're looking to dive in specifically to individual revenues, if that's what the question was.
Well, I guess just, we've got all these pages that lead up to the sewer fund, but then there's no
There's no
Total.
total for the,
I'm looking for the same total that we get for the water fund, for the sewer fund, for, the general fund. And it is called the general fund. I'm just not seeing that same total for the general fund. And that's puzzling.
What page are we,
Well, so the general fund seems to end at
page 8.
page 8 with no total.
Okay, are we looking for expenditures or revenues?
Rev-
Oh, so this is revenues, yeah,
All right, so if we're looking for expenditures, general fund expenditures,
yeah. No, that I think I found,
that's page 4.
yeah.
And then they total all funds out. You combine
that's-
sewer and water.
Yeah, that's not as helpful. I was just hoping for the general fund number to see where we are.
Well, that might be a question we need to ask for the next meeting.
I mean, I think on a monthly basis, that should have a total. Just, this is automobiles.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It probably just, we lost that line. It looks
I
like.
think that may be what happens. I guess that's really all I had. Looks like we're doing pretty well, other than some notable things, and hopefully next month we'll see some catch-up on some of those other lines.
All right. So before I release Mr. Sorensen, are there any other questions for the new town administrator? Seeing none, thank you for your time this
Thank you.
evening, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yeah, and I'll actually take a look at that report next time it goes out to make sure we don't miss any lines. All right?
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to other new business. I believe, Mr. Walsh, you have a motion to rescind that you'd like to present this evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. At the meeting last month, we motioned and accepted a motion to continue the Target Exaction Committee, Subcommittee, and after having some discussions, I think it would be more appropriate that we decide to revote that and rescind that motion. So I would like to make a motion to move to rescind the motion relating to the continuation of the Target Exaction Committee, which was adopted at our April meeting.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Walsh, seconded by Mr. Jasper. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Bergeropoulos.
So what exactly does the subcommittee do?
So this subcommittee looked into all things related to all of the exactions that were promised to the town related to the development of the target property.
Okay, so,
And they were in operation for most of last year.
all right, I get that. So they're in charge of making sure we get what they said they're going to give us.
No, they were just there to investigate how these things came about, what they were for, how they were impacting the town finances. They looked at some of the projects that had already started to receive funding for this and how they were executed. So it was kind of a soup to nuts look at all things related to exactions for that property development.
But nobody knows how the school's getting their money?
Well, I don't want to speak for the subcommittee,
Well-
but I do believe that they did look into that in some detail, and they got as much information as they could relative to it, but I don't want to...
If I might, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cole?
since I put that subcommittee together last year, the purpose was to identify taking those extractions, okay, for the, what is now the Target project, to take a look at each one of those and understand how it could be accepted, which got us into our conversation this evening
Yeah.
about the school and the STEM. What is the authorization? Next was the authorization to expend, okay? Was it appropriated, et cetera, et cetera? And the third reason, which has left my mind right this minute, the third reason was to have the department heads or the school district come up with a plan of how they were going to use the money. To say we're going to give $100,000 to the fire department, I'd like to know what they're going to do with the $100,000, assuming they can spend it. The STEM program, there should be eventually down the road a more detailed explanation of what the STEM program is going to do with this money. So that's why the committee came about. My personal opinion is at this particular stage, okay, of the STEM and the fire truck, et cetera, the information we need, we can get just as easily or just as difficultly on our own as opposed to being a subcommittee. The questions don't change, just getting the answers. And I don't know if I answered your question or not, and I apologize if I didn't.
No, thank you for that. I understand what you said, and I understand that perspective. But you said that their primary, one of their jobs was to figure out exactly some of the things that we spoke about tonight, but we don't have that. So if we have the subcommittee and that's what they're focused on, then we can limit the amount of people that are going to be seeking this information.
Well, I think there's another caveat to this that hasn't really been discussed tonight, but was discussed over the past year, is that subcommittee did a lot of hard work and a lot of digging, and they did obtain a lot of information, but we also obtained some legal guidance and clarification as to what we believe should have happened in this particular case. And I think this committee also made some determinations that there were a lot of things that were beyond this committee's purview to really affect because of the maturity of these agreements and what has already transpired. So if you add all those things together, I think you come to the conclusion very rapidly that maybe this subcommittee has kind of outlived its usefulness. Mr. Jasper?
Yeah, I agree with what you say, but to put a finer point on it, because everything that was done outside of the budget, there's absolutely no purview for the Budget Committee. We've identified that fact.
Okay.
We've identified all of those things, and at this point, there's nothing left to do because we now have the answer, which is,
We can't get the answer.
yeah,
Okay.
it was just done off budget and going to continue to be, and the only remaining thing will be to see how the school district handles it.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I didn't even know this subcommittee existed until I came in here tonight. So thank you.
Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Some of the things that we looked at when this first came to the Budget Committee was the question of how are you going to track $7.75 million? And the short answer was, well, we're going to put it into an account. And what we requested was that a separate account be set up for each individual exaction so that the control of that money could be managed effectively, if you will, by the Board of Selectmen and at some point in the future, the school board. Mr. Weary and I spent a lot of time. We met with department heads. They were very forthcoming and very supportive of our questions. We're trying to understand the implications for these exactions, because there may be some recurring charges, some investments that are going to be made in the future. For example, on the platform truck, the platform truck was about $1.9 million and change. So there's about $150,000 left from that, which is supposed to go over to the school board, the school district for STEM. We've had a discussion here in the budget committee as an example, and it said, we think it might be a good idea, rather than to give that to the STEM program, is to set up a capital reserve or put that into the fire department capital equipment capital reserve. You're talking about a $2 million piece of equipment that has a 20-year life cycle. We're already 5 or 6 years into the new fire truck for the ladder truck. So there's money being put aside for that. So what we're trying to do is make people aware that there could be some recurring charges or additional charges that are going to be required to make sure that the STEM programs and all the other exactions are fully understood and accounted for. So that's one of the things. Another thing, for example, and this project's going to come together fairly quickly over the next, probably this time next year, it could be operational. So, for example, I bet you the assessing department is going to require some external assistance to go down and assess the building. They don't have the expertise for doing this kind of project. So things like that, I think, to make our attempt is really to bring to the surface, especially like for the Board of Selectmen and for the school board, some of these questions that you really need to take a look at and spend some time and think about, because it's going to be additional requests for resources. So, we're just trying to put together, there's only one place that I know of in this entire town that has a timeline for the project, and it's the thing that Mr. Weary put together. So there's an actual timeline from 2020 to 2026 as to what's gone on with the project. And so, that's to the point where I think now all of the transactions that are going to be required for the building permit are either coming in or should be coming in or should be recorded by now. And then the rest of them are going to be for the certificate of occupancy. And there's a couple of other odds and ends, like, for example, road improvements down at Watson Road, $100,000 increments up to $1 million. I don't know if anybody has looked at that. Probably ask the town engineer. So there's a lot of things there that, especially for the Board of Selectmen, are going to be coming together over the next 12 months, that I think it'd be best that the Board of Selectmen really start to take a look at this and maybe have this as an agenda item, maybe once a month or once every other month, to see where the project is going so that people in town can be made aware of it.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Wary?
Just to echo on to Mr. Walsh's comments, it would be good for those exactions and the expenditures associated with those exactions to start to be included in the report, and for the school board, for in anticipation of that certificate of occupancy, to have that same line item addressed for the expenditures of funds toward the STEM school, legal issues aside, so that, again, we can really act as the budget committee and review what is coming in and what is going out in our proper capacity. I think we, have helped do a little heavy lifting here in terms of outlining some of this, but to get it back to, I think, just to comment on the move to rescind, I think that's an excellent idea, because we have investigated it, come to some good conclusions about it, debated it constantly, and now it's time to kind of restore us to our proper purview and really encourage the selectmen and other boards that may be involved but under sort of the selectmen's review for budget purposes, and the school board likewise, to have them do their responsibilities and us do ours. So I think that's, which is why I think I am also in favor of the motion to rescind, so.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, and I agree with everything Bob said. If I might, Mr. Jasper, is there such a thing as a retrograde warrant article? Is that the right term?
It's not a
Well,
bad
wait.
idea.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, no.
No.
There is.
No, no.
Maybe if I ask the town attorney, he'll tell me there is.
Well, you know,
Anyway, my point is, and I'm serious now, I would strongly suggest that the town side of the House, Board of Selectmen, and the school board start crafting warrant articles to cover all of these extractions, so that we can have something in writing approved by the voters to accept the monies and expend it. That would take one problem, I think, out of the basket. And that's just a matter of getting your legal support to craft the appropriate warrant articles. The information's already there. All they have to do is put in the legalese. And I think that would give us a good, now, we can't do anything about the fire truck.
well,
We've already,
we don't have it yet, but the money came, you're right.
we've already
But-
expended, well, we signed a contract, so we've
Yeah.
already committed the money. There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we can do about 100 or 200,000, I think the police department used for some equipment. There are pieces out there. But the majority of these items are still in the future. And I think a warrant articles, as appropriate, would get the town and the school out of the free fire zone, at least in one area, because this is still not appropriate under any circumstances. But I think we can mitigate, okay, possible damage by getting some warrant articles. Get the people involved. We're always talking about the people, let them approve it.
Mr. Wary?
Certainly, that would be possible for all of the exactions that are initiated with the certificate of occupancy. Those haven't come in, those haven't started at all. So, and that's the bulk of them in terms of both expenditures and line items. So that's not a bad idea. I don't know what we do about the ones that have already been associated with the building permit, but it would
that's
certainly
just a tax
mitigate,
truck,
it would
right?
certainly mitigate the legal risk for Hudson. And that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and even if the
Thank you, Mr.
certificate of
Wary.
occupancy was issued before we had the warrant article in place, we don't have to accept the money then and there. We could wait dependent on a warrant article being approved by the people. I'm simply saying we have to mitigate the exposure that the town and school have on what's been up to now a half-assed approach on the part of others.
Mr. Vergeropoulos?
I like what Mr. Cole's saying about the warrant articles. I think that's a really good idea. Obviously, I agree with everybody here. We can't change what is in the past. We have to hope the IRS doesn't audit us.
They don't.
We will, I think, covering ourselves like this, I'll definitely bring this back to the board and see what they say.
All right, well, we will wait with bated breath until you come back to our next meeting with that report. So we've got a motion that's still on the floor that's been seconded to rescind the motion to continue the subcommittee for exactions. Is there any other discussion related to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to rescind?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's carries. Gentlemen, thank you for your support and hard work on this subcommittee. I think that your efforts will not be in vain, and I think there'll be good progress made going forward. All right. Any other new business to come before the committee? Mr. Jasper?
I have a motion. Motion to ask the town what the increase in value of the target property was from March 31st to April 1st.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second for Mr.
Second.
Jaspers? Motion by Mr. Jasper, seconded by Vice Chair Rice. Would you like to speak to your motion,
I
Mr.
would.
Jasper?
So regardless what happens after April 1st till next April 1st, the value is not going to increase. So there's obviously been an increase in the value because there was some construction prior to April 1st. And since it's a static number, I think it's just would be interesting to know going forward for planning purposes in terms of how much the town valuation is going to go up, how much that went up.
Okay. Mr. Walsh?
I had a brief conversation with the assessor about the project. And, you know, not putting words in his mouth, we know what the land sold for. So that there's that value. But in terms of the progress of the building, so let's say come March 31st, if you get out and you look at the building and say it's 90% complete, 90% of what? That's the question they're going to need to ask and answer. I don't think they have that expertise in-house.
Well,
But
he has to set it, I mean, that is progressing rapidly now.
Right.
And I'm curious, you know, it doesn't really matter, and if I were them, I probably would have waited till April 2nd to do a whole lot. But I'm curious as to how much value got added in the last 12 months. Just a curiosity thing, but it will be, important moving forward, because if it's not this year, then a lot of it's going to come in next year.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So that request will be sent forward. Any other new business to come before the committee? Mr. Walsh?
I'll yield to Mr. Jasper.
Oh, this is just a question. We hadn't done the liaison reports. I didn't know if we were going to go over the school district financial.
We could certainly do that. I would make a comment, though, at first and foremost. I really don't find that this report is really adequate based on what we were looking for. And I guess what I would do is I'd ask Mr. Kilgore to take an action to go back to the SAU and see if we can't get a more detailed financial report from them in terms of the expenditures. Something more similar to what the town provided to us.
I can do that.
But, Mr. Jasper, did you have something else that
Well,
you wanted to?
I did. At first I looked at it and it was almost meaningless to me, and then as I sat here and looked at it a little bit more, I did see where we're heading. The interesting thing that I really want to see more detail on is our revenue in excess of what we were anticipating is up substantially. I think it's important to know where that's coming from. At first I was looking at the towns and going, okay, well, the town's tax collection is up by almost $1 million, so maybe that explains it. Then I realized, no, the town does not pay the school district based on collections, it pays based on budget. So that doesn't explain it. So I think, you look at 12/31 and it was only 60,000, and now it's jumped up by 716,000 since that time. So I don't know if you have an explanation on that.
I can look into that, Mr. Jasper. Which number was that again?
So that's the revenue, and it would be excess or shortfall, and in this
Understood.
case, it's
Yep.
then we see where the anticipated fund balance has continued to go up. The warrant articles that are from fund balance leaves us with, 1.89 million.
1.9, yep.
And then, we see where the salaries and everything is. My big question is, where is the missing $1? Anybody
It's
else catch
rounding.
that?
It's rounding.
Yeah, but when you're going to round, you ought to round it so that your numbers match. If you notice, it's 2,559,400, oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
1,783,232, and then 1,783,233, so there's a missing $1.
All right, so that should be the slogan of this year's budget committee.
Where's the
Where is the
$1?
missing
Where's the
$1?
dollar?
Where's the missing dollar?
All right,
So
Mr. Walsh.
basically- I'm sorry.
Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually put this spreadsheet together, so Mr. Kilgore, you get a out of jail free card tonight.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
did
Walsh.
this, again, to bring up to the point that we have not had a discussion regarding the school district finances year-to-date. So I went, I put this number, this together, just looking at the last 4 months of reports that go to the school district. So, for example, in the revenue going from 60,000 in the end of December to 776,000, there's 3 buckets that really make that up. There's interest on investments, catastrophic aid, special ed, and there's actually a bump in the school district swept. So that's the short answer there. What I also wanted to point out is, again, the vast majority of the fund balance comes from encumbrances from the previous year, and it goes back to my previous request: is why are we encumbering $1,157,000? And that's just gonna roll forward. What comprises that? That's an amazing number. The good news, I think, is we're getting closer to looking at the reality of what's going on with the budget. And you look at probably appropriations. Right now, we're looking at an excess, if you will, of $625,000. So we're getting closer to looking what the appropriations. So that fund balance is getting more realistic, I guess, as opposed to looking at some of the things that we've seen in the last several years. Then again, just to break out that $1,783,000 for the end of March. Again, you look at salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, property, other, and principal interest and transfers. Again, the thing that jumps out at me is benefits. You looked in December, the benefit would be $729,000. Now it's $1,349,000. What's going on? So we had some of those anomalies, as we recall, during the budget process. So there's transfers that are going on substantially. So this was nothing more than to plant the seed and said perhaps maybe next month, our next meeting, we just dedicate to looking at the year-to-date progress of both the town and the school district.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Jasper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Walsh. So, the fact is that school board did not do anything that we asked them to. There's no report from them, so hopefully next month we'll get it. And I had sort of glossed over the issue of the encumbrances. An encumbrance is something that you're supposed to have a signed invoice for, and that should be going down. The fact that it went up, not a lot is concerning, but the fact that here we are at the end of March, and the things that we had signed contracts for, if you will, we still have $1.157 million. Yes, we need a report on what's going on. Why was that money held back, and now with 3 months left to go, those contracts haven't been spent? What's going on here? There's something that doesn't smell right there. That number should be steadily going down. It should, I would think by now, 9 months into the budget, by this, that number should be zero. There could be some things, but in a perfect world, that number is zero by now. So that is certainly something we need to know what the hell's going on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jasper. Any other new business items? Seeing them, I've got one.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, Mr. Walsh, I'll let you go first.
this is part of your package, but Mr. Weary and I actually received a right-to-know request for information on the exaction subcommittee. So Mr. Weary and I responded to the requester in a very timely fashion. Took a fair amount of time to go through all of the communications and information that we had, but This is my 13th year in public service here as a volunteer in the town, between the school board and the budget committee. It's my first right-to-know request. And it just kind of surprised me that it would come through the budget committee for something like this, because we have no purview of this. We're actually trying to perform a service and inform people on it. The very simple request would have resulted in the same thing, but having it been a formal right to know, to dot the i's and cross the t's is a very tedious process, which we were happy to provide, but at the same time, a simple request, somebody coming here in a public input session to simply ask what's going on with the target transactions exaction subcommittee would have accomplished the same thing with a lot less manpower to do that. So it was just something that was very, very interesting to go through and look at the Secretary of State's 152-page manual of how to respond to a right to know. It was interesting, so.
Well, I
Thank you.
certainly appreciate both your efforts and Mr. Ware's efforts to take that. I know that was no small undertaking.
If I may, I think
Yes, Mr. Ware.
Mr. Walsh exaggerates the joy felt when fulfilling this request. It did take me about 2.5 to 3 hours, again, to be precise in the response and to be thorough in the response. If the information had been simply asked for, it could have been granted at much less time. So, it's encouragement to if the public wants information from the Budget Committee, please appear during the public portion and request the information. And I'm sure we are a very transparent committee. And so, and both Mr. Walsh and I commented as such in our responses to the requester. So, I just want to echo that again for the purposes of this meeting, that the public, if they have a need to have additional information, please appear at the public portion of the hearing and request that information.
Mr. Jasper.
I think it's worth reminding everyone that we should never be having communications where we respond to everybody in the group. That opens our emails up. I've suggested to the chairman, but it's up to him, that he should have a town email address that he sends everything to us on, so that then that is all within the town server. Because if he's sending it from his personal email, it's not. But, it's fine for any of us to respond to one or two of each of us, but as soon as we reach a quorum, that makes it a public meeting, and we cannot do that. He can send to us, but we can't engage in conversations.
Yeah, I think it has to be CC'd, everyone, so it's separately in an email.
By the way, if any member of the committee that does not already have a town email that you would like to have one, please contact me and I can facilitate that as well. I know Mr. Jasper suggested that I get one, but if a member of the committee at large would like one, that's permissible as well. So just let me know if you're interested in that. Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. So do you have a town email address?
Not yet.
Okay, because the right to know request went to what they thought was your town email address, so you would not have been
It went to
apprised.
a phony email address, that's correct. So you're correct, I was not informed of the request through normal channels. I had it, how shall I say this, forwarded to me after the fact. So, work in progress. Any other new business? I'll bring up my item of new business. I would like to make a proposal that we have done in the past, and I think it's appropriate this year based on the schedule and the workload that I anticipate that we'll have going forward. But traditionally, we have taken the month of July off and not had a budget committee meeting for that month. Would that be something that this committee would be interested in engaging in this go-around?
Yeah,
Mr. Brownrigg?
yeah, I'll be in favor of that.
Mr. Jasper?
I would move that we not meet during the month of July.
I'll second it.
Second that.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Jasper, seconded by Mr. Brownrigg. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. There will be no budget committee meeting for the month of July. All right, any other new business? Seeing none, I will begin to go around the room, starting with our newcomer, Mr. Vergeropoulos.
Thank you guys for having me. Honestly, I've had a great time tonight. I don't have anything crazy to report. I'm just gonna, do my best to work with you guys and provide you anything you need.
Excellent, well, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kilgore.
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to echo Mr. Vergeropoulos's sentiment towards the paraeducators of our district. Being a paraeducator at one point in my career, I was for 10 years in a public school system. We wear many hats, and whether educators, whether they're a teacher, a paraprofessional, or administrator, we are teachers. And I want to make that statement. Otherwise, I want to also thank everyone for their hard work. I'm still learning the ropes, and I appreciate every single one of you helping me out along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brownrigg.
I just want to take the time and thank all the voters for coming out and voting still. I want to also thank the voters for coming out during the deliberations for the school side and the town side. I hope there's more people come next year at these meetings and deliberations so they can be more engaged what goes on with the town. I think it's important that we spread the word as much as possible. And I'd like to see a few people from the town come to a public meeting and give their input on how they feel that we're doing or not doing. But besides that, I just think this is a great town, and we have a lot of diversity in itself, and I'm enjoying being involved. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brownrigg. Mr. Wary.
Thank you. Looking forward to fulfilling my clerk duties in the future, and I think that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Wary. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Bob, for stepping up. No, I don't have anything else. I think just button it up and let's go home.
Ms. Boucher.
I would just like to thank everyone for the meaty discussion that we had in setting up for the next budget season. I think we made some good progress tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing else at this time. Appreciate it.
Mr. Jasper.
Nothing. Mr. Chairman, I'm sure that everyone would agree that I've said more than enough tonight.
I don't know how to respond to that one, but thank you, Mr. Jasper. Vice Chair Rice.
I want to thank Bob for stepping up to be clerk, and welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. V. That's it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rice. And it's been a very productive night. I want to thank you all for your participation. I especially want to thank Mr. Wary for volunteering to be clerk. I know it's going to be a very, how shall I say this, rewarding experience for you and for us as the committee. And I know that Mr. Walsh is very thankful as well. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Brownrigg, seconded by Mr. Jasper. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned at 9:03 p.m.